I am the Tribune. My name is Joshua. You know, do you guys notice that I don't have like notes or a podium or I don't have my Bible right with me? I'm sure somebody has, and they're probably curious, like, oh, if he's talking about God, I wonder why he doesn't pull out a scripture and start reading it. Well, I'm going to answer that today. The reason for that is that God forbid me to bring notes or anything to the camera because what he explained to me when I was very shocked at first. I was like, oh, no notes. I'm like, oh, this is really crazy. And no, I can't read a scripture. He's like, I don't want that. You know why I don't want that? It's because I want you to talk to the people like you're talking about a friend. I want you to talk to the people like you're talking about your mom or or anybody else who you've been with for so many years that you know. You know, it would be just a good example of this, and a good analogy would be if I met somebody at the grocery store and they asked me, you know, what my sister was like, and I said, hold on one second, let me get my podium and let me get my notes out, and I'm going to read bullet points about what my sister is like. Now, we have to take this in context because I have to say I have been totally fed by people who use notes. Um, I've been immensely poured into by people who open the scriptures and read the scriptures. I read the scriptures every day and I enjoy studying the scriptures. But this is a different conversation that he's asked for. This conversation is meant to show that he is actually so real and so awesome that I could talk to you about him like he's in the flesh and a real person that I talk to every day and I spend time with. And this is what really I notice touches people when I'm out and stuff. It's Can you imagine if I was out and I couldn't talk about my father because I didn't have notes or I didn't have a Bible scripture that I needed to read? This is what the new era is going to bring for for people who are looking to create with God and create beautiful things and want a deep relationship with him. Yes, you have to read the scriptures. You have to read them. You have to study them because that's his living word, and it's amazing. And it will be living forever. But the thing is, when you read and we're out here living in the world, we need to be able to talk about God to people who don't know God in a way that 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 isn't so deep for them and so theological that we don't even that they don't even hear us. Because a lot of people out there, including Christians, have turned verses into cliches, and they've become these sayings that we just say. And Satan's children see us like that too. Like, oh yeah, they're just quoting scriptures, but we're not speaking in their language, and we're not portraying God like he is like our best friend. This is somebody we spend time with. This is somebody where we should really know his character. We should be talking to people about how God how his personality is. That's what this conversation is about. So it's important to take this into context because I'm led to do this with you guys to so he can speak to you guys as a friend, as as somebody who wants to get to know you, because that's what he told me. He wants to get to know so many of you as deep friends. And really he's your father. He's your dad. He's actually your dad. So to keep that in mind is important because when you're working with him and you're receiving blueprints from him and you're receiving commissions and you're becoming very close to him, you're going to need to be able to to think of him as somebody who's sitting right with you in the room, especially when you're under attack. When you're under attack, Sometimes you don't have time to just grab a scripture and start reading it. That's not, and in fact, in my worst, most hardest, most difficult times, pulling out my Bible necessarily didn't work for me to really get me stable. It was my relationship with him. It was knowing his character. It was saying, even if this is happening, I know my God. I know how he is. He's my dad. I know what he's taught me about himself. So I know that I don't need to lose my mind in this situation. I don't need to have a heart attack in the situation. I don't need to have anxiety in this situation. And in fact, I should get treasure out of the situation, even if it's difficult. That comes from realizing that he is so real that I should be able to sit and talk without losing my thought, going and getting, looking at my bullets and say, oh my bullet points and say, oh my gosh, like I gotta get back to on track. No, I should be able to hear God just by talking to you guys. I should actually be able to just stand here and just talk to you. And this is what Clothing Royalty is about. This is what he's asked me to do, and I have to do that. So, but he's no respecter of person. He wants this with you. You know why he wants it with you is because you guys can touch people that I can't touch. There are people around you that are looking for God, and not the first thing they're looking for is not scriptures and planned scholarly messages. That's not what a lot of people are looking for. They're looking for relationship. They're looking to find somebody who has God touching their lives, where they can sense that he is present with them. Present not through a lesson, that they can go to the colleges or go to a school and get that same kind of information. These people who are carnal are looking for unusual power. And I've seen it so many times. So I hope that this inspires you guys watching to think of it a little different. Think of God as when you go out and you're out in the world, think of him as wanting to give you direct words for people and direct insight and wisdom right on the spot. And that's what touches people the most. That's really what gets their heart. So now, for people who are trying to create with God and are trying to do powerful things with God, this is very important, because when he asked you to write a script or hear his voice on a song, or sketch the most beautiful painting or picture you've ever seen, okay? He is going to expect that you guys can hear him without pulling out a Bible. Because there's not time for that. Also, you should have the scriptures in your heart. You should have them actually in your heart, where the principles are living inside of you. Means you can pull them out at any time when you need to. Depending on the situation, whatever arises, you can just pull them out and speak truth and speak wisdom, his wisdom. This is exactly what this channel is about. That's the relationship. So I'm not saying that people shouldn't use podiums, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't read scriptures and pastors shouldn't pull out and have organized notes. I think it's wonderful. I'm fed by that. So this is not what I'm saying. I'm speaking to people who are trying to have a deeper relationship with him, a relationship that is unusual, a relationship that he is a real person to you, more real than your family, more real than your friend, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your spouse, anything. More real than that. That's what we're looking for. And that's what he wants to give you guys. So this process that I talk about in the cave, in his conference rooms, he talks to you through many different forms, many different ways. And this is another thing we're going to talk about in another video, which is all the different ways God talks to us and how he expects us to actually hear him in different ways. And the moment we think, oh, he just speaks through scripture, he'll shut that down and speak through something else. Or, okay, he speaks through, a family member. He'll shut it down, talk through something else. And then when you are so set that he talks through people, he'll use a situation to talk to you. He'll use an environment to talk to you. God can use animals to talk to you. Now, I'm not saying, in the scripture, yes, there's animals actually talk verbally. But I'm talking about other ways. I'm talking about anything. And this is what we need to really consider about God. And this is the relationship he is looking for. And people who are willing to go on this journey with him and go through the process and who really think of him like this. So I say this in all humility, that he is no respecter of person. If you go and seek him, be obedient to his instructions, then he will have this relationship with you where he will sit and just talk. Now, he's not somebody who's a diarrhea mouth. That's something that we really need to remember about God. He doesn't just talk for no reason. He talks, his words are so potent that one word could take you 5 years to even excavate it. So what it is he'll give you a word, and then that word, you have to take it and work it for as long as he needs, and he gives you little instructions along the way to make that come to pass. But the thing is, you still have to hear his instructions in many different ways as you go through that process. So for people who just say God is just like rambling and talking all the time, like he just never stops talking, that's not true. There are seasons where he doesn't talk that much, but it's because, you couldn't handle it. It's because the last thing he said, either you didn't do it, you didn't follow the instructions, you weren't obedient, or you're being obedient, he's very pleased, and it takes time to complete what he said or even think about what he said. And that brings me to another thing. This is going to be another video. Prayer is not just talking. God already knows what you're thinking. He already knows what's wrong in your situation. He already knows what's right. He knows everything. So why do we ramble? He knows everything. A big part of prayer that I really wasn't too aware of until I went with God on my journey is the listening part. To hear what he's saying to me. To hear what he's thinking about, because I'm the one who's ignorant. I don't know what he's saying. He knows what I'm thinking. I remember this one time where I wanted something and I just prayed the same thing for 5 months every day, and he didn't move at all. He didn't do it, and I was like, well, what happened? I was praying. I was consistent. He's like, you're not listening. You just want to pray and ask me for what you want, but you didn't even come and check in with what I want. Maybe prayer is first to listen to what he wants, and then you're asking him to give you the strength and the wisdom and the guidance to complete that task and to move forward effectively and to help you with spiritual warfare. That maybe, or insight on what he's already talked about. This whole conversation is why we need to make sure that we don't get just so stuck to just methodical podiums and methodical reading scriptures and everybody's just being robots, because he changes and we have to hear him many different ways, and we have to be able to know him as a friend and not rely on those kind of things, because we become half-baked and watered down, and we're not potent. We are actually impotent when we cannot be his friend and actually speak out of what he's dumped into us in our private time. That's what we're looking for. So go on the journey to get this. It's worth it. It's way worth it. It's powerful. And you cannot be defeated when you have this kind of relationship with Him. It's impossible. Hail Jehovah.